Hi everyone, welcome to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. 707 days left the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Kyiv managed to free 207 Ukrainians, both servicemen and civilians, from Russian captivity in the 50th prisoner swap since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Reports Suspilne. The released servicemen include 95 representatives of the armed forces of Ukraine, 56 National Guardsmen, 26 border guards, 29 territorial defense servicemen, and 1 representative of the National Police. A total of 180 of the defenders that are brought home are privates and surgeons, and another 27 are Ukrainian officers. At least 36 of them have been injured or seriously ill. The oldest of the exchange defenders is 61 years old, and the youngest will soon turn 21. Among the released servicemen are defenders of Mariupol, Kherson, fighters from Zmyiny Island, Marines, and combat medics. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky commented on the exchange, quote, "We remember everyone who is in captivity. Both servicemen and civilians. We have to bring everyone back. We are working on it," unquote. The previous prisoner swap was scheduled for 24th of January. More than 200 captured Ukrainians were to come back to Ukraine at that time. Russia claimed that 65 Ukrainian prisoners were on board the Il-76 aircraft that crashed in Russia's Belgorod Oblast. Ukraine has no confirmation of this claim. The UN International Court of Justice announced the final ruling in Ukraine's so-called big case against Russia, which included accusations of financing terrorism, reports European Pravda. The court found Moscow guilty only in that regard that Russia has failed to fulfill its obligations with respect to the investigation of cases of financing terrorism, which Ukraine has pointed out many times. However, the International Court of Justice found no grounds for most of Ukraine's accusations against Russia. The key problem is that the court chose to take a conservative approach to the interpretation of the convention and decided that the financing of terrorism according to the convention refers only to the transfer of monetary funds and does not encompass providing militants with military equipment and weapons. So the supply of a Buk missile system or other weapons, for instance, is not subject to this ban. This decision has already caused a public outcry in the Ukrainian social media. The users point out that it is another reason for a distrust towards international institutions. The court has also announced its verdict on Ukraine's complaint against Russia concerning the latter's violation of the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. The complaint was filed back in 2017. The court has rejected most of Ukraine's accusations against Russia within this complaint. Specifically, the court ruled that the violation of international law by Russia is unproven in the context of banning the activity of Medjlis, the assembly of the Crimean Tatar community in Crimea. However, the International Court of Justice acknowledged that Russia had breached its obligations regarding non-discrimination of the Ukrainian minority in the educational sector. The Russian Foreign Ministry interprets both decisions as Moscow's full victory and claims that the court refused to recognize Russia as an aggressor state, and also denied that the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics are terrorist organizations. We would really appreciate if you could recommend us to your friends and family, as well as share information on social media. This way more people would learn about the podcast and truth about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The EU and its members agreed to give Ukraine military aid totaling at least 21 billion euros in 2024, reports Ukrainska Pravda. EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy Josep Borrell stressed that this is a minimum since individual member states have not yet provided figures of their support. Earlier, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, Czech Prime Minister Petr Fiala, Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas, and the Netherlands Prime Minister Mark Rutte have written a joint letter calling for collective efforts to provide long-term support for Ukraine. Olaf Scholz has once again called upon European partners to supply Ukraine with more financial and military aid over fears that US assistance might stop. Borrell also confirmed that despite previous plans and promises, the EU will be able to supply Ukraine not with 1 million artillery shells, but with about 500,000. Thank you for listening to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast. We're a commercial initiative of just two people and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the app, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we are getting better. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.